evening. Come on in, come on in. Good evening, roommates. How you feeling, Mr. Jenkins?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I ain't got no complaints. I'm excited myself. I really am. I put on my homemade Javid for you.
Well, you look amazing. Let me tell you that right now. You look amazing. As always.
I appreciate that. Roommates, come on in, come on in. We have such a treat and such a wonderful house guest that I am just elated about. I know this gentleman on a few levels,
yes,
but I am learning more and more about him, and together as our house guest, we will get the opportunity and I will gain more knowledge about who our guest is. So I'm going to allow you guys to come in, and we'll get started in just a moment. Good evening, good evening. You good?
I am great, Tamika. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful opportunity and a beautiful space that you have here.
Thank you.
Very welcoming, very professional, and it's just good to be around you because you've always been positive.
I
always have a lot of positive
that.
energy. Every time, as long as I've known you, energy's been through the roof.
Well,
yeah.
You know, I am intentional in that way.
Okay.
I'm extremely intentional. I go out of my way to ensure that people feel welcome.
Sure.
I have a spirit that is I attempt to be kind and giving and understanding at all junctures. But I too am human, so I fall short often. But I am super excited that I have had an impression on you.
Absolutely.
Where you feel comfortable and welcomed in the space that I am bringing you in.
Yes.
So again, I welcome you. Roommates, I am going to take this time now to share and send to some of your friends and family members, but I'm going to take this opportunity at this juncture to invite and introduce our house guest, okay? And so I have this long introduction, but I ain't gonna do you like that. I mean, I'm gonna do you good. I'm gonna do you good, but I ain't gonna do it too much.
All right.
But I'm super excited. So our house guest, okay? This is Mr. Javid, not David, not to be mistaken with David. Javid L. Jenkins.
Yes.
He is a man defined by resilience, faith, and relentless drive that has turned adversity into triumph. He has overcome really major obstacles in his life. He has survived some unfortunate things, but has still risen above the things that try to hold him down, okay? He is one of the most influential fitness gurus that I know, which is how I first met him, and we will definitely delve into that a little bit more. He has answered the call to ministry early in his life. So he is a man of God. He is a husband. He is an awesome father. I see it for myself all the time. It just feels so surreal watching you with your family, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. He can cook his butt off, okay? And I ain't never even had none of his food, but I know this to be true.
Yep.
Javid has been a dynamic force in the sales industry for over 25 years as a top performer.
Yep.
In 2012, he founded Getting Better Fitness, which is, again, where I met you at. He wears the logo on his arm, guys.
Yep.
And so Getting Better Fitness, and he became one of the largest Black-owned gyms in the city of Chicago, okay? And he is, again, a devoted husband, a proud father to 6 children, and I'll be remiss not to talk about how such a great landscaper he is.
Right.
Like, I still might be stalking him on social media, right?
Listen.
I really do, Javid.
Yep. And I
just
appreciate
be
that.
all up in your stuff.
Please.
But and all of these things, roommates, that I just said encompasses our house guest, Javid L. Jenkins. But One of the biggest reasons that right now he's on kind of like a promotional tour, if
Yes.
you will, is because of his wonderful book that you see showcased right here, up front and centered. And the name of his book is Illegitimate.
Yes.
So roommates, without further ado, I need for you guys to clap it up and show some love for our house guest, Mr. Javid L. Jenkins.
My goodness. I'll tell you, that felt like it's time to go preach now. You know? That's one of them before sermon introductions.
It felt good too, because again, some of these things I felt like I knew about you, right?
Okay.
And you know, of course, I met you on the gym journey. But you know what? I have kind of like an order by which I would like for us to kind of follow. It's not a script completely, but it is an order that I would like for us
do your thing. I'm
like
here for you
for
today.
us to follow, okay? But it wouldn't be ordinary. Rumor has it, and the Roommates podcast, if we didn't start with a biblical reference.
Absolutely.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So roommates, y'all know how we do. We always gonna give God some praise and some shout out, but we're gonna do it by also encouraging our guests, right? So I thought that Matthew 25 and 23 might be fitting for you.
Okay.
And Matthew 25:23 reminds us that our master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things." That's a shout.
That is amazing.
Listen, y'all, that is a shout, because when God deems us in a light of having been a good and faithful servant, He will undoubtedly put you in charge of many and will trust you with it. And I thought that was so fitting, because I remember when I met you pre-pandemic.
Yes.
And I was working out. I was working out with a different coach, but it was Javid's gym. And so getting better fitness. And so it was, I mean, every evening, guys, it was 100, and Saturday, it was almost 100 plus young, middle-aged, and older Black people coming together in the fitness world. And this man owned the gym. He was you are an exceptional fitness coach.
Yes.
I wouldn't even like call you like a trainer, because you have so much you're innovative in your approaches with your clients.
Right.
And it makes it easy to show up even when we don't want to.
Got it. Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So I'm gonna just shift a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And so a little birdie told me that you started out in the church.
Yes.
Very heavily in the church.
Yes.
At a very young age.
Yes.
Under the age of 18.
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about your church involvement and kind of how did you maneuver in your clergy position?
Okay. So, full disclosure.
Okay.
All these interviews that I've done leading up to yours,
Okay.
they've all focused on the first 4 chapters of the book.
The first 4 chapters, y'all.
The stuff you just asked me is in the latter parts of the book.
All
so
right.
you're getting the scoop on a lot of this information.
So I'm deviating a little bit, but
bit.
I love it.
But it's okay. It's okay. We're releasing on Saturday, so
wonderful.
Good for these folks to hear this.
Yes.
So part of my journey of finding help and a place for myself and belonging was running to the church. Running to the church, yes. And I use that very intentionally, because some of the things that I went through in my life, there was no place for me to belong. Whether it was in my house, amongst my friends, my brothers, I always felt like an outsider. But things were going on in my life, and my grandmother decided that I needed something that was going to put me on a better path. Because the direction I was going, the possibilities of the things that could have pulled me down because of what I was experiencing.
Yes.
My grandmother said, let me get this boy in church and take up as much of his time as possible.
Take up as much of his time as possible.
So she took me into church, and she took me over to St. James and basically
St. James.
AME, yep, 92nd Lafayette.
Okay.
Yep, and ingrained me into that church. Sunday school, Bible study, young people's division, you name it. Just every single day I was there.
Okay.
And I found belonging there. And I found myself accepted there.
Yes.
And one of the things that I have done throughout my entire life, when I find something that I like,
yes,
I try to delve into it as deeply as I can, learning everything I can about it.
Okay.
And in some instances, mimic things that are going on.
Mimic, yeah.
I became so good at imitating preachers that my friends would like, come on, do Reverend this one, do Reverend that one. And I would do these voices and imitate these preachers. And it got to the point where it was like, he ain't imitating nobody no more. That's actually him talking.
Oh my God.
And then the adults saw what I could say and do. And they recognized his gift and started pulling me up for speeches and prayers and things like that. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, he's got to call and preach. You know?
Okay.
So here I am in the church, mimicking preachers at a young age, being tapped to lead services.
Wow.
And I could not escape the feeling I got.
Okay.
The acceptance I got. You can't take a boy who has been looked over, rejected, abused, beaten, and put him in a situation where acceptance and love starts showering him. Because if you take that boy and put him in that situation, he's going to blossom.
He's going to thrive.
Yes, he's going to grow, thrive, and blossom. And that's what happened to me in the church.
Okay.
The members and folks of St. James, they put dirt over me and watered me, and the next thing you know, I started blossoming and growing. Confidence started to swell. My articulation got great. The next thing you know, here I am preaching sermons.
Wow.
So we're 17 years old answering the call to preach.
Oh my God.
And it was one of, if not the best times of my life.
Yeah.
I cannot explain what it feels like to be used by God.
Okay.
People talk about it. Oh, to be used by God.
To be used
but
by God.
You cannot explain to a person what it feels like to have one hand in heaven holding on to God and another hand touching his people.
Yes, yes.
You know, and there is something that is so healing and cathartic and delivering and freeing about that. And I took ministry as a personal journey for myself.
Okay.
And while I'm on this journey for myself, I'm going to hold on to you and say, come with me.
That's it.
I wasn't in ministry to grow a church or to gain members or to get notoriety. I was there to take this journey.
Yes.
And I wanted people to feel what I felt.
Yes.
It was a sermon that saved my life, Tamika.
Wow.
You're going to hear this first. Nobody else has heard this. This is one thing in this book that I have never mentioned to anybody ever until I wrote this book.
Okay.
But I was on the verge of suicide.
Oh, Jesus. Thank you, Lord.
And I decided I'm going to go to a church meeting. Weekend with my youth division. I'm going to listen to these sermons, have a good time at church, and when I get home, it's over.
You already had a plan. You had the plan. I'm gonna go. I don't know how you thought you were about to go get some word of God and some encouragement. You thought you was gonna come back and do that.
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
And I was a teenager. That was the plan. I went. I sat down in that service, and the woman that was preaching, she's going on now. But at the time, her name was Reverend Ann Byfield. Okay. But now, before she passed, she had become a bishop. Okay. Bishop Ann.
All right.
Bishop Ann preached a sermon.
Thank you, Bishop Ann. Thank you, Bishop
Even
Ann.
the youth shall faint and be weary. Young men shall utterly fall, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Yes. They shall mount up on wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Yes. She talked about being mounted up on wings like an eagle. Yes. And it felt like she was talking right to me. That's it? It was maybe 100 kids in that room.
But it felt like she was talking
right to me.
She was
in
God.
My business.
She's in your business.
God said, I need you to talk to that boy.
Talk to him.
That boy I got to save him for something greater later.
Yes, yes.
And if he get out of here, something else going to happen to him. Yes. And Reverend Ann preached to me, preached to my soul, preached to my heart, preached to my intention. Yes. And I got up out of there, and I have never had that thought in my life since then.
Praise God.
It pulled me out of the darkness. It put me on a path And I've been walking that path, and I've had ups and downs in life after that, of course.
Yes.
But never got to the point where I felt like I needed to take myself out of here. And it was because of that sermon.
Because of that sermon.
And I followed through, went through the ministry. Yep.
You know, it's funny that you say that because, you know, reels on social media has become a thing, right? For all of us. Reels will stop you in your tracks.
Yeah,
and especially when it's something that, you know, is catchy to your ear, to your eyes, to something.
Right.
And we are living in a time where that's the way that we're capturing our audience. A lot of people are doing church by, you know, screen and all of that stuff. But I find a lot of my messages nowadays, I find messages everywhere, but I really find messages through reels and through different people.
Okay.
I say that to say this, that Reverend Ann, Bishop Ann, she was your reel at that moment.
Agreed.
Because when you're on your phone, it's so personal. It's you and what you're watching.
Right.
But not everything resonates with you, right?
Correct.
Roommates,
Correct.
and that's why I try to do things that
Correct.
would resonate with my roommates, because I want to be able to be the messenger. But sometimes us the messengers, need a message as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So Reverend Ann at that moment was your reel, was your, you know, she was able to capture your attention, and you were able to hear from God. You were able to hear the word of God.
Right.
So again, I'm thankful for her, because you are such a dynamic person in that way that you know you deserve all of that, right? And more. You know. Were you going to say something else? I don't want to.
No, I was going on about that, but the ministry, going into ministry, it was a salvation to me. It was a salvation for me, and I wanted everyone to feel what I felt.
That's it.
And I knew that if I could do this, maybe I could reach somebody that's on the verge, like I was. And that was the crust of my ministry, trying to reach people.
That's right.
I wasn't too interested in people who are already in church.
Yes.
You know, I like you to come, because there's folks in church that need it too.
That's it.
But there's some folks out there outside that need it more.
But they say the church is not just the church home, right? The church is bringing people into the church and even from the confines of the four walls of the church to reach the people. You know, our people need them anyway and everywhere. You know, and until you are touching those people who kind of refuse to walk through the church doors. I remember the first time I committed myself to the walk of my faith, and it wasn't really successful. But I remember it was me being drawn to the pastor, who was all about everybody can come as you are. So for me, that was a teasing to my ears, and it was different from anything that I'd known from the Baptist sanctified. You got our women, so it was my first young adult experience with my faith, and the first time that I had kind of committed as an adult. I've since have moved on and have joined Bright Star in St. James. That's why when you said St. James, my ears perked up. But I know there's multiple St. James, because my St. James is Kojic, Christ of God of Christ, Church of God of Christ. But that it's funny that you say that, because you're right. We do what we need to do within the confines of the church house, but you will be probably much more beneficial to the person who don't know, who don't understand, and even those who don't believe.
Very true.
So I thank you so much for your service. I'm going to shift a little bit. Okay. I'm going to stay in the realm of church, but I am going to bring up the fact that you are a dedicated husband to your wife.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about you and Miss Wendy. Hey, Wendy, I hope you're watching.
She watching.
How are you? I haven't met you in person, but this TT Tamika, I always tell Javid, like, look at my nieces and nephews, and we're going to talk about them in a minute, too. But Wendy is your wife.
Yes.
And again, just by knowing a little bit about you and really following you on social media, Wendy appears on the outside looking in to be your best friend.
Absolutely.
You guys met at a fairly young age. And then I understand Wendy is also a PK.
Yes, she is.
And for those...
You've been doing your research.
I've been doing my research. And for those of my roommates who do not know what a PK is, it's a preacher's kid.
Right.
They call the preacher's kids PKs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I learned that a long time ago by watching the preacher's kid, the movie.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But preachers' children are affectionately known as PKs. Mm-hmm. Like, that's universal. That's universally known. Yeah. So you're already initially struggling with some of the things we're going to talk about with some of those struggles in the book when we get to the book in a moment. Okay. So you're struggling as a young person. You're trying to find your way. You're drawn to the church because that's the first place you really feel connected, wanted, accepted, etc. You round up in church. You start your own ministry. And where about on that journey that you then meet your wife and start that process of knowing this is my person.
All right. So
I'm all up in this business.
How much time?
Roommates, listen. We try to stick to about an hour.
Let me explain
but you know.
I first saw Wendy.
Okay.
And it's in chapter 9.
Chapter 9, y'all.
Page 151 is where it starts.
That's a dedicated husband.
The reason why it's page 151 is intentional.
Okay.
I was on my ear trying to get her to help me align these pages.
Okay.
Because it was one specific reason why I wanted her chapter to start on page 151.
Okay.
Because the numbers 151 was the address she lived at when I first met her.
Oh my goodness.
And I wanted to leave a little Easter egg in there for her.
I love that.
And so,
oh my God.
When I first met her, when I first saw her, I was about 10 or 11 years old.
Oh, so early, young.
Because we were in the church.
Okay. Okay.
And that's where I met her, in the church.
Okay.
In the Indy church, they have this organization called YPD, Young People's Division.
Okay. Okay.
And it's basically a youth auxiliary that trains the kids to learn how to run the church when they get older.
Yes. Train a child up.
Exactly. And every year we would go to a camp in Cassopolis, Michigan.
Okay.
Called Camp Baber. And it would be a weekend retreat. We would be out there churching, singing, playing ball, all of that. I'm 10, 11 years old. She's 13, 14.
Okay, a couple years older than you.
Not really looking at the 10-year-old.
Right. She wasn't taking for you.
The first time I saw her, I'm standing there and I'm like, who's this light-skinned girl with the long hair? And I'm sitting like, man, okay, she caught my eye. I had been having so much trouble at home.
Okay.
When we went off to these church trips, it was my sanctuary.
Oh, yes.
I could find a place to hide amongst people that didn't know my past and didn't know what I was dealing with. So I could be myself there, no guards up. And I saw her and I just got enamored by her. And so I'm watching her, but she's older. She's older than me, Okay, so got it. After each church service, every single night, we would walk to town to get hot dogs and ice cream.
Okay, in Michigan?
In Michigan.
Okay.
All the kids would walk from the camp to town.
That's
to give you an idea how far, about 2 miles away from the camp.
Oh, so that was a good
walk.
Evening walk, wind down.
But the kids walked in packs.
Okay.
Younger kids, older kids, friend groups, things of that nature. I'm walking with my buddies. We're 9, 10 years old, walking down this dirt road, little small Michigan town.
Okay.
And as I'm walking, right, I hear this sound in my ears. And I start smelling like roses and strawberries.
Woo! And
I look over my shoulder, and this car's coming by.
Okay.
And it's a Ford Fairmont. I'll never forget.
Ford Fairmont.
And in the front seat
of that car. Age, y'all.
In the front seat of that car, passenger seat, is this light-skinned girl. And the car, Tamika, slowed down. Okay. And it was slow motion. Her hair's in the wind. Yeah. I'm smelling these strawberries. And all of a sudden, I hear the bars from Force MD's Tender Love. Tender Love.
Well, I ain't gonna do that, but yeah, we get the gist.
So tender.
Woo!
I'm looking and I'm like, ooh. And she's just riding in slow motion.
Yes.
And strawberries walked in my nose, and music playing in my ears. And that car blasted past me so quick. Yeah. Because these are older kids in that car. Oh. They got licenses. They're driving. We're walking.
Wow.
By the time I got to the Tasty Freeze, they had got their food. They were heading back.
Okay.
And I looked at it. I'm staring, and that music playing in my ears.
Still.
Oh, I was just taken by her, mesmerized, yes. And because she was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen in my life.
That is beautiful. You know? Wendy is a beautiful woman.
So we get to the Tasty Freeze, they gone.
They're gone.
But the whole weekend I'm watching her. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna talk to her, man. I'm get myself together. But I'm 10, 11 years old with a Hulk figurine in my pocket and a comic book in my hand.
Yes.
She's over here 14, 15 years old, 13, 14 years old. Some of the college kids are there. She hanging around the college kids. They got some alphas and some kappas. They step in.
Oh,
they watching this.
Doing it up.
So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I go stand over there, but I didn't realize that I'm not old enough for her. I'm not sophisticated enough to talk to her. So it took me a little while. Every year I just watch her. And then finally my body caught up with my feet. You know, I started growing. You know, I'm drinking milk, so, you know, by this time next year, I'm going to look like, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm finally taller than everybody. I got football muscles because I'm playing football.
Yes.
I'm going to talk to her this year.
I'm going to talk to her this year.
I walk up to that camp and I'm looking for her. I cannot find her. She gone.
And this is the same year one?
No, this is some years later.
As the years have gone on. Okay.
Finally, I get my courage up to talk to her, but she gone. Like, anybody see Wendy? Oh, you know what? She coming off school, went to college. Ooh. And in our church, when you go off to the college, you know, that's it. You come back later, it will be 17 years till I seen her again.
What? Wait. From what age?
At that time, I was probably about 16, 15, 16 years old.
And so you wouldn't see her again?
Until about 17 years.
Wow.
Yep.
How was that anguish? That had to be just painstaking.
You know, I didn't see her anymore. It was just like she was gone. I'm young. She's out of my mind.
Okay.
We're moving on. We're going to move on with life.
Okay.
I move on with life. I get married.
Okay.
That marriage don't work out.
All right.
It's falling apart. It's 1998.
Okay.
The marriage is falling apart. I'm broken.
Okay.
I'm broken because I was truly in love with my first wife.
Okay.
And it just didn't work. You know, we were too young for going into that marriage. I was a boy when I met her. She was a girl when she met me.
Got it.
We were becoming adults together, and as we became adults, we weren't connecting like we wanted to.
Should have been. Okay.
So I was broken. It's 1998. I'm standing in the church and running, doing the service, and I look out and I see this light-skinned girl sitting in the audience.
Wait a minute, you were back at church?
Back at church.
Okay.
I'm assistant pastor now at St. James.
Okay.
I recognize that face, I think.
Okay.
Okay, whatever. We go to the receiving line, and it's her. I'm like, whoa, it's the light-skinned girl with the long hair.
Ooh.
And she's like, hey, I remember you. You remember me? We're like, hey, okay. I'm like, God, what are you trying to say to me?
But did it muster up new stuff?
It did.
Okay.
I started feeling like right then and there, I'm like, oh, that's the tender love. Like, I smell the butterflies. I see the butterflies in the strawberries again.
Yes.
Man, I looked up and I'm standing in front of this woman and I'm tall. I'm striking. I got my head. I'm looking like I need to look to talk. My confidence is there. And before I could even say a word, 2 pairs of little eyes peered out from behind her. Okay. Her children. Okay. And I was like, oh. Wendy Walker. She says, no, it's Brown now. Oh, so you're married. God, I done missed my window.
You can't win for losing.
So, okay. Good to see you, friend. Glad you came over to St. James for a little church.
Yes.
So now she's at St. James. I don't know why.
Okay.
She showed up there.
Okay.
She's showing up every Sunday. I'm like, okay, well, she's here. Hey.
Okay.
One day after service, I'm walking into the pastor's office, right? Getting ready to go home. And I open the door and she's sitting in there crying her eyes out.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Everything okay?
Yeah.
She's going through a divorce too.
Ooh.
So my marriage broke up. Her marriage is breaking up. I'm like, okay, so God, okay, hold on. Now, listen. I know how you feel about marriages. I know you want marriages to work. But,
this is too good to be
true. Are you trying to tell me something here?
Yes.
So, long story short, she and I both were going through a divorce at the same time. And something, God led her to St. James just to find a place to worship and heal. And she ran right into me while I was trying to find moments to worship again.
Now, was she you all, period, were originally St. James to begin with. So
I was
that
at
was
St.
kind
James.
of
She was at
home.
a different church.
But when you guys were younger, you guys were in St. James together.
She was at a different church. She was at a AME church, but a different
okay.
She was at St. Paul South and Institutional in Schaefer. That's because her dad was a pastor.
Yeah.
So, and that was it, man. Okay, so we're gonna start this. We're gonna start this friendship.
Okay.
And we're gonna help each other heal. Because you say it, I'm saying it. Let's start this friendship.
Yes.
And before you know it, I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of really, really loving you.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
I know you're still married. We're going through this divorce. I'm still married. I'm going through this divorce. And everyone we knew said that it was a bad idea for us to start a relationship on this rebound. She's just getting out of a devastating marriage. I'm getting out of a devastating marriage.
But it was almost kind of like an equal, it's one thing that if it's one person just getting out, you don't want to make excuses for giving yourself time to heal. Right? Yeah. So I do want to be very clear about that. You don't want to minimize healing phases. But one thing that I've learned in my years is that it's easier to heal when you are around people who can relate.
Exactly.
And so divorce to divorce, that's apples to apples. Now, you were sound like you were out of your marriage a little bit longer, and she was kind of just going through.
It was literally about the same time.
Oh, wait.
We used to joke that our exes were reading out the same book because it seemed like they were doing the same stuff at the same time. We found comfort in each other.
That's it.
And it wasn't about, I'm going to help you heal from your relationship. You're going to help me heal from mine. It was about, I feel comfortable and better when I'm with you. And that's how it started.
And that's when you are able to trust. And when you are able to trust and feel safe in a relationship, then you are able to settle in a way that is unexplainable, even to the people who's living it.
And I will tell you this, Wendy makes me better.
Yes, husband.
And I am masculine enough to recognize that I need her touch.
That's it.
To make me better.
Yes, sir.
I have never found myself in a situation where I felt belittled or emasculated because she was trying to help and correct me. Wendy and I bonded over a document that I wrote for the church.
All right.
That was riddled with spelling and grammar mistakes.
Okay.
Riddled.
With.
And in this day and age, people say, "Oh, that man can't write and he can't spell and he can't."
Everybody
we don't want to be around that man. Listen, let me tell you something. She looked at that document that I had. She said, "You got some good ideas here, but you gotta fix this. If you let me fix it, I think it'll be better." And I was okay enough to turn it over to her and let her fine tune it and give it back to me.
I want to touch on that just for a moment. And roommates, I want you guys to tap in and tune in into this. Sure. Because, I was watching Channel 7 News, Midday News the other day, and Val Warner is on Channel 7 News. And her colleagues who had that show, that 11 o'clock segment, were on there, and they were talking about bloopers or something, but how the bloopers sometimes can make the person, it might be funny to you, but it's not necessarily funny to me because I done made a mistake to make it a blooper, blah, blah, blah. And then so that conversation shifted to just saying, like, it's okay not to be perfect and all of that. But the point that I'm making to what you're saying is about this grammar and all of that stuff. Val Warner said out of her own mouth, she said, my husband may not be the most grammatically correct person, but that's part of his charm. I don't know her husband. I know of her husband, just like I know of her. I've been in many places in the same building with them together. And so, and I know the aesthetics of kind of like who they are. First of all, they be shitty sharp, okay? They do. But she said that, and so to the point that you were just making, those very things that other people will frown upon and try to, if there's not something that I can do to help brighten your life, enhance your life, and to be of some sort of instrument to you as I need you to be for me,
exactly,
then we are not in the same space, and we may not be granted the same grace of relationships that last. Okay, we have to know and understand how it is that we complement one another, and where your strong suits are and my not so strong suits are. That's what make us a dynamic duo, because you gonna lift me up in my areas, and you gonna help me polish my areas, and then vice versa. And ain't no perfect couple, ain't no perfect situation, and ain't no time to get ready for your person.
Listen. Let me tell you this. I'm going to make you shout. Right?
Please do.
When I met her, when we started, we bonded over that document, right?
Yes.
Every time I wrote something from then to now, right? It was, I need you to look this over for me. Can you look this for me? Can you look it over for me, right?
Of course.
And she would take moments to teach and correct me, because she went to Medill.
Okay.
Northwestern Medill School of Journalism.
Oh, wonderful.
Right? So Wendy has found, she can look in a book, in a Stephen King book, she's found grammatical errors. That's how tight she is with it, right? So she took the time, every time I wrote something, to teach me. Yes. You know, yours, and yours.
Yeah, that's it.
There.
That's it.
Teach me these things, right? And I was open enough to learn.
Yeah.
I wasn't so masculine that I'm like, you trying to teach me nothing. To the point. Yes. To the point that when I wrote this, I was confident enough to say, I don't want you to read it until it's done.
Yes.
She has not read this.
Yet.
She has not proofed this. Because I was confident enough in my skill.
Abilities.
And my ability to do this.
Yes.
Not without her, but because of her. Okay? So this book took me 3.5 years to write. Okay. But it took me 22 years to learn how to do this this way. Yes. So when you read my writing style, my writing, all of that, it's because she took the time to teach me, and I took the time to learn. Yes. So when she reads it, it's going to be fun. I want to sit there and like, baby, look what I did. Look what I did.
I want to touch briefly on your children, and then I do want to move to
Okay.
That's a beautiful story.
I can talk about that one.
I know you can talk about that woman all day. You had better.
I ain't even talking about how she calmed my raging beast inside, this hawk. But
well, you just mentioned it. Listen, and guess what? You from the beginning, you just explained a gentle touch and a gentle smell. Yeah. One thing about a man with a woman that he feels safe with. A man, and you can correct me whenever I go wrong, a woman too. But when a man feels safe, confident, and comfort in a woman, he will completely let his guards down to the point that he is able to minimize himself to the most vulnerable spaces and places without feeling judged, because that environment has been cultivated and nurtured for him.
Right, exactly.
And what I'm hearing from you is that this is what your wife, the beautiful Wendy, has done for you.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for sharing that story. Thank you for sharing that space. I knew a little bit about your wife before I feel like I still haven't met her. Right. But I've always known that there's Wendy, and I've always known what she's meant to you.
Absolutely.
Now, shifting really quickly to their genius children.
Babies.
Let me tell y'all something. I have never seen theatrical acting on such a young set of children. When I say theatrical, I'm explaining it the best way I've witnessed it. I mean, they can do anything from what it looks like can be on the big screen to a small screen to a play in Times Square, and even downtown Chicago Theater District. I think your children are multi-layered with talent, with gifts. He has his children. They are like opera-like singers. Your son, I think, recently became the conductor for the orchestra. Now, come on now, you don't hear about that type of talent amongst young black children.
Right.
Now, I know Miss Eleanor, because I'll be sitting there stalking Miss Eleanor in a good way, in an auntie type way.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about what I just explained, and how did you and your wife cultivate those level of talent within your children?
Got it. So we have 3 together.
Okay.
The 3 that we have together is Eleanor, Elhanan, and Elliot.
Yes. Okay.
Those are the 3 E's.
That's
right?
the 3 E's.
Eleanor is the oldest of the 3.
Okay.
And really and truly, it all started with her.
Okay.
With singing.
With singing.
One day she came barreling out of her room. She couldn't be no more than about 6 years old. And she grabbed her brother by the hand and said, "Come in here." And she drug Elhanan in the room. And they were in there for about an hour.
Okay.
And she taught him a song. And she brought him back out, and she said, "Okay, everybody sit down, we're going to perform." And they sang a song.
I could see that for her.
And she was all dressed up, she had a scarf around her neck, you know.
God.
I mean, it was
being
all
dramatic.
Yes.
Sitting here being dramatic.
Yes. And I'll tell you, and that was the beginning of it.
Okay.
She would drag him in the room, and they would learn VeggieTale songs and come back out and perform it.
I love
and in the book, it talks about she got sick once. Her lung collapsed, and she almost died.
Wow.
And while in the hospital, whole left lung collapsed down, and they had to reinflate it. There was an infection and everything.
Yes.
But when she came back out of that, we were at church one Sunday, and she was just up in the pulpit after service, and she was singing, playing with the acoustics in the room.
I love it.
And she's probably about 6, 7 years old.
Okay.
And she's modulating.
Okay.
And she's got vibrato. And she's taking a high C up. She's going up with it. And I'm looking, and I have this recorded.
Okay.
And I'm looking like,
what?
Do you hear this? Okay, something there. You know, she literally can go up to a high C. She's got octaves.
God.
And so I started looking for voice lessons, right? Every voice coach that I saw would not take her because they said she's too young. Just let her keep singing.
Okay.
Let her keep singing. And that's what we did. We just let her keep singing.
Okay.
To the point that she would get in trouble at school because in class she'd be working and she'd be singing. And every time she sang at home, she would take her brother with. We're going to sing.
Okay.
They would do Hamilton. They would do China McClain. They would do Katy Perry. They sang everything from fireworks to Hamilton songs. And she really kind of taught him to sing. Okay. So by the time they got in school and got in choir, the directors was like, wait a minute, they had harmony. They had blend.
They do.
And they were like, wait a minute, what's going on with these kids? And so then the teacher started cultivating that. And we just fed it. You know, we didn't try to stop them. We let them sing as much as they wanted to. Okay. And by the time they got to high school, singing together, it was like a secret weapon. It was like the choir would say, okay, put Eleanor and Elhanan together. Okay. And they knew how that would come out. Yes. Here he is, this really rich baritone at 16.
Oh, man.
He's 17 now, but
he's 17, okay.
A really rich baritone. You're talking about a baritone.
Yes.
A boy with a baritone. And you got
and what is generally what, a man?
Usually his age, they're usually tenors. Okay, tenors. And a high tenor.
Oh, but
he's
baritone is
a tenor and a bass. He could work between tenor, bass, and baritone.
Got it.
So now you've got these kids he's 3 octaves. Okay. Eleanor is 10 octaves. A 10 octave soprano. Wow. 10 octave. What that means, she can modulate up 10 times and keep going.
And Eleanor is away at school right now, right?
She's at home.
What is she taking up?
She's taking up English and theater.
I know some theater.
English and theater, yes.
Honey, she make them costumes and getting some stuff in audition without asking y'all. The next thing you know, she got a party. She got to take it up.
Yep. We dressing up Sunday. She got me dressing up Sunday going to Comic-Con, dressing up for that. But these children, they are artistic to the bone. The singing ability comes from their mother's side. Okay. The artistic flair comes from my side. Okay. And Elliot does not sing. Okay. He likes to dance, but Elliot is an artist with a pen. Ooh. Like my son does. He drew a final this past week. Okay. And he got all The class critique, he got all 10s and 11s.
Wow.
Depth.
Yes.
Color mixing. I mean, everything was perfect.
Perfect. Or above perfect.
Or above perfect, yes.
Because 10 was the highest.
10 is the highest, and he got
11 and some. Wow.
So his skill, he may not be on stage singing, but he definitely can draw that background if he needs to.
Wow.
So our children, they are layered to the point where Eleanor is the performer, Ella Hannon is the thinker, and Elliot is the visionary.
Ooh.
You know, that's how they are. So
they are triple threats.
They are.
And then they are they're in sync with one another for them to be able to come up with production, to sit and pull from one another what it is that they need. And then one thing that I see about them, and that I just heard you say without saying it, they pour into each other.
They do.
And I think this is the perfect segue.
Okay.
So speaking about siblings pouring into each other, I know we have a copy of the book Roommates right here. I just wanted to pick this up to feel the how heavy it is, because I hadn't picked it up yet, even though I know I've been gifted one.
That's your copy.
This is my copy. I'm gonna get some. I will get it signed and all that good stuff. But this is a good old, almost 300-page book, and it got some good, heavy feelings to it. And I see these beautiful pictures right here. And so the name of your book, Javid, is Illegitimate. Redefining the Outcome. First of all, I love that title.
Thank you.
Illegitimate is one thing. If you'd have left it at that was cold.
Right.
Okay? But redefining the outcome. Roommates, y'all know if I don't do nothing else, I talk to you guys constantly about our outcomes and working towards what it is that we want.
Yes.
And so with this book, I haven't told you this yet. I would love to purchase 5 copies.
Oh, okay.
And Roommates, I will have 5 copies of this. So you'll hear a little bit about this. I'm going to ask some questions about this book. And so, that's my thank you to you. And so I'm going to buy some copies, Roommates, and if you're interested, just inbox me. I got it. We can meet up. If you're somewhere else, I can ship it to you. It is what it is. But I got to support my guests in whatever way that I can. So with that being said, Javid, why illegitimate?
This book is it was my therapy, but it was also my song of freedom and salvation. I was born out of wedlock.
Okay.
And I grew up in a home with 3 brothers.
Okay.
Who were not full-blood brothers of mine.
And when you say full blood, because we black folk, and black folk,
everybody's your brother.
Everybody your brother, your sister, your cousin, and it don't matter if you got the same mama and not the same daddy, or the same daddy and not the same mama. Tell me what that means for you, because black folk, baby, we claim everybody.
Oh yeah. and that is part of the crux of my journey.
Okay.
My brothers were the offspring of my mother's first marriage.
Okay.
My mother got married when she was 18.
Okay.
And she had 3 children. Okay. The marriage fell apart.
Okay.
And in her sadness, she met my father. And she and my father got together, and they should not have, because my father was married.
Okay. Got it.
And he had children of his own.
Got it.
And he caught her vulnerable. And they were out acting grown.
Acting grown.
My mom got pregnant and had me.
Got pregnant with you.
With me.
Okay. And she already has 3 boys
at home. 3 boys from her first marriage.
Okay. Got it. I'm following you.
I was born into that situation, and I never felt like I belonged there. We had the same mother but different fathers. Okay. And they made sure I knew that I was different. I looked different from them. I acted different. I was not the same. Okay. You know that old song from Sesame Street? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not the same. I was not the same. Wow. And in the 70s, I was raised in a home that was prim, proper, decent, upright, in order. And here I am, this bastard child, born out of wedlock, to my mom's mistake and my father's hubris.
Ooh. To what?
My mother's mistake and my father's hubris.
Yes, then. Hubris.
She made a mistake, and he saw her as a conquest. And now here comes this bastard child that really nobody really wants, because mom was going to go and do an abortion, but my dad pleaded with her not to do it.
Don't do that.
So here I am in this home with these light-skinned people. And
all these light-skinned folk.
They made me, my brothers made me know that I didn't belong. And so growing up, I was an illegitimate bastard child that everyone tried to hide. My name on this book, Javid Lawrence Jenkins. I was named Jenkins because that was my mother's husband's name.
Oh, not your father.
My real last name is Jackson.
Got it.
That's my father's name.
Oh, Jesus.
But my mother wanted to hide me next to my brothers because she didn't want everyone to know that I was illegitimate. She didn't want to see Jenkins, Jackson when printed.
Yes.
Because my mother had a strong aversion against this word, illegitimate.
Yes.
Because my mother was born without a father.
Okay.
In 1941.
In 1941.
In a mental institute. Because her mother, 16 years old, was sexually assaulted. And they sent that 16-year-old girl from Chicago an hour away to a place called Dixon State School to have this baby.
Like they don't have a Dixon Penitentiary yet?
It's the same place. It's the penitentiary now. It used to be the hospital.
Oh, get
same
out of
place.
here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's having this baby in this place. And when my mother was born, they stamped illegitimate on her birth certificate.
Oh my God.
Because there was no father. And that made my mother physically ill to the point that she never wanted to look at her birth certificate.
Of course not.
Anytime she had to use it, she would get it, show it for work or whatever, and then tear it up.
And have to get a new one.
And
when she has to.
When she had to. And the only way I found that out was because when I was caregiving for her.
Yeah, I remember.
I had to find her birth certificate so that I could get power of attorney.
Yes.
I had to go all the way to Dixon to get this birth certificate and stamped on it, illegitimate. She hated that term.
Talk
so
about
much
full circle.
Exactly. She hated that term so much that she never wanted people to know that I was illegitimate, that she was illegitimate, so she tried to hide me, right? And as I got older and started growing, this little dark-skinned boy got tall and strapping, and my brothers were short and stumpy. One of these things does not match.
I'm sorry. You said you called them people short and light-skinned and stumpy.
Yeah, they were. So I was always made aware to the point where they would call me the milkman's son, the milkman's child.
Okay. You know,
because
it was strikingly that much of a difference.
Oh yeah. Okay. There's pictures of Facebook on Facebook of us.
Okay.
And so in that process, I'm this illegitimate child that has to find his own way. I have to become my own person. Okay. And so when I wrote this book, if you look at the IL, it's fallen off. Yes. Because I'm breaking that IL off.
Breaking that cycle.
Becoming legitimate.
He ain't lying, y'all. That IL is crooked letter hanging. Okay. I love that.
Because I fought my whole life to carve out my place. And when people ask me, why don't you just change your name? And I said, no. Yes. Because Jenkins was given to me to hide me. Yes. But what I'm going to do with Jenkins is I'm going to take it and make it better than it was when it was given to me. So now when people hear Jenkins, they're not going to hear Julius. They're not going to think of Julius, Johnny, Jock, or their father, Gerald. They're not going to think of them.
And everybody was James.
Yes.
Just JJ.
Yeah, look at this.
Oh, wow. I see.
And now, when people hear Jenkins, because of the things that I've done with my life, they're going to think of Mr. GBF. They're going to think of this book. They're going to think of the church. They're going to think of the works that I've done. But even further than that, they're going to think of Eleanor, Elhanan, and Elliot Jenkins. So all of the horror and the abuse that was put on me through my life I had to carve that away and take this name and build it into something. So it's mine now.
It's yours.
That name belongs to me.
It's yours.
Yes, I'm Jackson Blood.
Yes.
But I am Jenkins.
Yeah.
You are not going to make me change this name that I have taken and built into something.
That's right. That's
so
right.
There's a chapter in the book that talks about Kunta Kinte and how he was beaten.
Yeah.
And wouldn't give up his name.
Okay.
And I said to myself when I was watching, I said, man, I would just say the name and just stop the beating. And my brother said, that's because you don't have no pride in your name. I got pride in my name now. Because nobody will ever be able to tell me that Javid Lawrence Jenkins is illegitimate.
Amen.
I am as legit as they come. What you see is what you get.
I love that. What was the age difference between your elder brothers and yourself?
My oldest was 10 years older than me.
Okay, and then what about age?
And the one next to that was 6.
Okay, so
6 years
so they had some years on you.
Mm-hmm.
So they 16, 18, and 20, and here you are just 10 or whatever you may be.
Yep.
Say that many years older than you. So that is substantial.
Yeah.
And so I know we talked about the illegitimate part that they abused you and stuff like that. Was it more that they shunned you, or was it literal physical abuse, or was it more emotional and spiritual, emotional where it spiritually damaged you, or was it a combination of everything?
Yes.
The latter.
All of it.
Okay.
So each brother, one was more cruel than the next.
Hey.
And each of them had something different that they did. So my oldest brother, and this is strange for me to say this because he was the most supportive of the 3.
Oh, okay. I thought it would be the other way around, but
The oldest was
he's
the
so
most,
much older.
He's the most supportive of the 3. However, he expressed his support and love through physical violence. Like he would literally beat me up. And he was strong. He was really strong. Like I was playing football, pushing around 200-300-pound guys on the football field. I could not handle him when we fought. And if he felt like if I was doing something I wasn't supposed to do, here come the fist. Grabbing me in the chest and lifting me up against the wall, all this kind of stuff. So that was the extent of his abuse. Now, I didn't see it as abuse as I was growing up, but as an adult now, I look back at it and I should have never experienced that.
No,
Here I am
you
trying to learn how to read because, I was having learning difficulties at the time. And your answer was pushing me through a wall. So. And
you said you felt like that was his, even though he did these things to you. And I think, it sounds a little Stockholm syndrome-ish.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And roommates, for those of you who
Absolutely.
don't know, I never try to quiz y'all or anything. I really just always try to let you guys know what's what. So the Stockholm syndrome is when the victim finds, really make excuses for them being victimized.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Like, if they make excuses or they minimize the abuse that their abuser is inflicting upon them. So that's Stockholm syndrome.
I literally and actually have Stockholm syndrome.
Okay.
Survivor's guilt. And imposter syndrome. I suffer from those 3 things. That's diagnosed.
Okay.
So we can delve in that, but my oldest brother,
Okay.
physical.
Physical. Okay. Okay. Fighting on you all the time.
The next one under him was more mental.
Okay.
Isolation, ignoring me.
Yeah.
He would literally play the game where he would come in a room and say, it's good to be in this room by myself, knowing that I'm sitting right there.
I'm not.
No,
that's so crazy.
No, he would isolate me so bad that it made me feel like I really wasn't there.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
There was some sexual abuse from him. But the one next to me,
6 years older,
demon.
Woo.
He was a demon. This mark in my forehead comes from my brother.
Oh.
I was hit in the head with a shovel.
Ooh.
Look how old I am in this book. That mark is on my forehead. I'm only 3 years old in that book.
Oh,
I got hit in the head with a shovel. and I've carried this mark on my forehead my entire life.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My brother next to me was a demon. Every single form of abuse he could inflict on me, he did.
Oh my God.
Every single form.
I'm sorry.
Okay? I have been choked and told, I can kill you if I wanted to. I have been stripped naked in the streets in front of my friends, humiliated. Okay? Everything you can think of. And where the survivor's guilt, Stockholm syndrome comes in at is when my brothers died. They're all gone now.
All three of them
are gone. Yes.
Wow.
When they died, I had remorse. I was sad. I cried. I preached their funerals. And I preached sermons to the point that it made them look like the best human beings in the world.
Well, that's just you being able to forgive.
I hadn't
forgiven.
No.
Okay, well you
That was Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
I haven't forgiven them. Even when I wrote this, I hadn't forgiven them. There's a point in this book where I say I will not forgive them because I want them to stay in a cage where I can study them and recognize their tendencies and help guard people against them.
Yes.
Tamika, I haven't gotten to the point where I can actually start letting them go until we're starting to now talk about it.
Yes.
Because
Doing
I've
this
never
process.
talked about it to people.
Wow.
So my brothers on my mother's side put me through hell. And I survived it by the grace of God and my mother doing everything she could to put me in a position and lift me up from them.
Yes.
Because a lot of the stuff that they were doing was under her nose and behind her back. And I wasn't brave enough, strong enough, or willing to tell her what was going on.
Okay.
And when I did finally tell her what was going on, she broke down.
Yeah.
And she was, why didn't you tell me? I would have helped. I would have stopped.
Yeah.
And I told her I didn't know how. I didn't know how.
Protecting the abusers.
Exactly.
Protecting the abusers. And that happens. That happens a lot. It's funny that, I listened to you tell the story and I have suffered with some Stockholm syndrome stuff with family members and even like past lovers, right? People who have abused me.
Absolutely.
I have found ways to, I've forgiven them all. But through my forgiveness, I feel sorry for many of them because, the Bible speaks about, and even Jesus said it on the cross, they know not what they do, right? And it's not really actuality that you don't know what you did to someone, but it's hard for them to assume responsibility.
Okay.
Right? It's for most abusers to assume responsibility. It's hard for them to acknowledge what they've inflicted upon you. But one of the bigger parts, roommates, of Stockholm syndrome, especially in abusive situations, because victimization shows up in different ways, right? But when someone is physically, emotionally, sexually abusive towards you, and you live with and through that, what Stockholm syndrome does is it doesn't minimize that it happened. So you're not telling yourself, oh, they didn't do that to you. Right. What you do is that you start to kind of pity the fool, if you will.
Well, that too, but there's also some dissociation that's in there.
Of course.
Because you have to find a way to cope with it.
Yeah.
So it could be going on and you will just check out.
You check out and you will begin to minimize, is it that bad? Are they really abusing me?
And you find reasons to make,
You pacify the situation.
At least they're talking to me.
At least they talking to me.
At least they
ain't mad at me today.
Exactly. At least I'm not getting pushed through a wall or getting stripped down in front of my friends outside.
And so you glorify those moments that you're surviving them when they're not actually victimizing you. And so it's a form of control that's so deep that you will most certainly lose yourself in. So for me, first came forgiveness. And so my Stockholm syndrome is a little less nowadays.
Sure.
But though I still, I feel bad for people who have ever like really truly abused me in any capacity or misused me in any capacity, because I've always set out to be genuinely kind and great to others.
Got it.
And so I've always put my best foot forward. No matter what you were doing to me, I still would try to show up as this person for you. And so nowadays I'm able to really recognize that this person is going through something.
Okay.
Because there's no way that you can really truly misuse somebody who's been good to you and think it's okay if you're not really suffering in some capacity or not.
I will agree, especially my brother Jacques, who's the one who's closest to me, that he was suffering.
Okay.
He definitely had some sort of mental illness because he just had a lot in him.
Okay.
And when I say he's a demon, I'm not exaggerating.
I believe you because you said it more than once.
There are quite a few people in my life that grew up with us as I started talking about this that reached out to me and was like, yeah, he was kind of like that with me too. There was just something going on with him. Yeah. And I had the misfortune of being growing up with him. And above all things, my struggle to survive, just being labeled a certain thing was compounded by the fact that I have to find a way to survive this guy who I felt was literally trying to kill me. Yeah. I felt like he was literally trying to kill me. So when I get to the point in this book where I talk about their deaths, you will see how that process went and where my mind was at the time versus where it is now. When I first talked about them in the first chapter of that book, in the Monsters chapter, I say that, some people will say that I'm speaking ill of the dead, and I say they didn't pull their punches with me, and I won't pull mine with them. So what you get is what you get when I talk about that. It's my raw feelings.
That's your raw feelings.
It's me setting myself free.
You setting yourself free. And you know what? You deserve that.
Absolutely.
You deserve that in more ways than one.
Yep.
Before I go to my closing segment, I would love for you to talk a little bit about the survivor's guilt and then impart any wisdom you would love for our roommates to kind of hold on to, whether it's illegitimate base or life base. And then I will take us to closing segment.
So, survivor's guilt, for everyone that's listening, I had 3 brothers that were terribly abusive to me. And each of them died 10 years apart from each other.
Oh, wow.
One died in 94, the other died in 04, and the next died in 14.
Jesus.
I felt like I wasn't worthy of surviving when they died. Because when they were dying, I still had this thought in my head that I'm the least of them. And when I had that thought in my head that I was the least of them, but life took them out, then it's going to get me too. I felt guilty for living. I felt guilty for being blessed. I felt guilty for having skill and talent in my hands. Because growing up, I did not know I had skill and talent in my hands. Each of my brothers had something tangible that you could look at. Okay. Julius was the strongest guy I ever met in my life. Okay. John was the most gifted with his hands. He was a musician. Okay. He could take apart a car and put it back together without any instructions. Okay. And John was probably the most athletic person I ever met in my life. Okay. And then there was me with a learning disability, dyslexia, bedwetting, and afraid of my own shadow. So I didn't feel like I had nothing. So when they died, I had nothing. Okay. And because I had nothing, I should not have lived. I shouldn't be here. I should be gone too. So this guilt started riding me to the point where I felt like I was missing the moment where I was supposed to go to. So in my heart and my mind, I told Wendy all the time, I said the boys would come visit me. And it always felt like they were coming beckoning me. hey, you're supposed to be over here with us. Come on inside.
Oh.
And so I constantly fought against that call that they were dragging, because they just constantly tormented me, even after they were gone.
Wow. So
I didn't start getting free from them until I started watching my children grow. I have to live for them. I have to be here for them. I have to be whole for my kids.
That's it.
And I wrote this to become whole.
That's it.
Because my children deserve a whole, present, active, vibrant father. That's what my children deserve. Amen. I don't know about anybody else's kids. Your kids deserve everything too.
That's it.
But my kids deserve this from me.
That's it. That's it.
And I can't be that if I've got these guys hanging around my neck.
That's it.
So I didn't start getting over my survivor's guilt until I started looking in the eyes of my children. Because I have to survive for them.
That's right.
And I'm not going to be guilty about surviving for my kids.
That's right.
I'm not going to have any guilt about my children being me surviving for them.
That's it.
So the fitness industry, that was me adding years to my life for my kids.
That's right. That's right.
This book, that's me adding years to my mental for my kids. My spiritual for my kids.
And leaving legacy.
Leaving legacy for my kids.
And leaving legacy.
Everything I do since the day they were born, even my oldest child from my first marriage, for my kids.
For your kids.
I lay down everything for them. And when I started doing that, that's when the gifts in these hands started showing up.
Yes.
You start talking about all the things that you've seen me do. I am the type of person that if I put my heart and my mind to it, I can do it. This is proof of that. The gym is proof of that. So for those of you trying to deal with survivor's guilt, find your reason to survive, not the reason why you're guilty for surviving.
Amen.
Okay?
Amen.
Listen, I know we didn't get into it, but I built that gym, and I will stand here toe-to-toe against anybody in Chicago and dare them to tell me that my gym wasn't one of the best.
Oh, no, I told you. I told you. I mean, I had never walked into a gym where 98% of the people that were there, from the trainers to those of us who were trying to get and stay healthy, were of African American descent. Absolutely. And it just was a feel-good place. The music was always on point. Green, my favorite color, was his stuff. And so and I started off as LaDonna and Jatan's client, but I eventually came over there to you. When they couldn't come and I wanted to come to the gym, I would work out with you in your group. And you always made me feel welcome. So I probably, we'll sit here for 12 more years.
Ain't nobody did nobody do it like I did. I'm a firm believer of that. I witnessed it. So I agree with you there. So when you getting it back up and going? Mary's running it now. I turned it over to Mary.
Oh yeah, Mary.
So Mary still holds the space.
Cool.
I've told people that maybe I'll pop back in and do a here and there kind of thing.
Okay.
But I had to recognize that the gym, though it was making me legitimate, and it was providing legacy for my children, it was also pulling me away from my children.
Yes.
Because I was there from 6 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night.
9 at night.
So, and I wanted to do things like this.
Okay.
So that's why I retired from it.
Got it.
Because I wanted to spend more time.
Got it. So, before I go to my closing segment, where can we find you? Where can we find the books? Where can we find you? How can we support you? And then I'll go into closing segment. So
the best way to support me is going to my website.
Okay.
JavidLJenkins.com. JavidLJenkins.com. Buy a book. But then once you purchase the book and read it, write a review on Facebook, tag me, tell your friends about it, because in this book, it's more than just my trauma. It is a book of hope. It shows resilience. You will find yourself in here.
Yes, yes.
And if this little guy could survive all of that and become this man, then anybody can. And it is an encouraging story that I want everyone to read. There are several chapters in here that are just phenomenal.
Yes.
I
can't wait to delve into it. I can't. The things that you've shared with me is inspiring. The parts of your life, literally in person, with being a personal trainer of mine, being a motivator, you know, over the years, really encouraging us when the pandemic hit. You did such an amazing job with trying to keep us grounded in fitness, though we was getting ready to go into lockdown and all of that stuff. So it was just an amazing, you know, I've watched you do that. So roommates, Javid, so David with a J, JavidLJenkins.com. Let's support my guy. I am going to purchase 5 of these books. If you're interested, inbox me. I'll make sure that you get a copy of this book. I am so grateful that you came and blessed the platform, because you have such a meaningful story to tell, and I would have been remiss knowing that you were on a tour not to reach out and ask you to come and bless our roommates with your story. So I'm going to move on to closing segment.
Okay.
I was watching Jamal Bryant, Pastor the Jamal Bryant, and he said something that resonated with me so well. But knowing your story a little bit more, I thought that this line that I'm about to give you probably will resonate with you very well. And so he says, God has been watching you, and he's seen how you have suffered in class. Roommates, let me tell you something. Suffering is something that we all are going to go through. God told us that the weapon would not, he told us it wouldn't prosper, but he said, he let us know that no weapon formed. He let us know that it was going to form, but he said it shall not prosper. And so I want you guys to be reminded that though you suffer, it is the stepping stone for your story, for your outcome, for how you triumphant over those things that were meant to break you and to destroy you and to tear you down in ways that you thought you were not fit enough to walk through and to see through and to be okay. And I just want you guys to know, and I'm going to remind us of Matthew 25 and 23, which reminds us that the master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in a few things, and for this I put you in charge of many." So as a clinician, guys, I share so many things with you guys, and I try not to distort anybody's mindset about anything, but only to add to what it is you are seeking for when it comes to outcome, when it's coming to change your mindsets, when it's coming to do things a little bit different. So I tell you guys today, as you have definitely heard me say before, the testimonies that you hear on this couch could be and are the breakthrough for many people to come. So I thank you, roommates. I thank you so much for joining us this evening. I thank you, Javid, for gracing my platform with your legacy, with your story, which is yours to tell, with your feelings, with your expressions. I thank God that he sent that reverend and that pastor to pull you when you went to that Christian retreat. And I thank God that he sent you and Wendy to each other to keep you guys grounded and rooted in who he is.
Oh my God. Yes.
Roommates, we have come to another close of another successful house guest and roommate meeting. I love you guys so much. I appreciate you all for joining. Good night, roommates.
Good night, all.